Hi everyone. So now we're going to be talking about mobile responsiveness with Bootstrap. So the reason why people use Bootstrap and why it was so revolutionary when it was created like 10 years ago is because there was this realization that everyone uses their phones to browse the internet now instead of doing it on the browser. So when we build a website, we need to actually make it so that it can work well mobily, as well as on tablets and as well as on a desktop or a normal laptop. So what Bootstrap allows is for us to make our web page change based on the size of the browser. So this is called the grid system, and it's something which Bootstrap started, but most CSS frameworks which you use will have some form of this because it's really useful. So if we go to Bootstrap and we go to their CSS part, and then we go to grid system, we can see what they're talking about here. So basically what it is that it allows us to say how much space certain things take. So to give you an idea of what this means, essentially Bootstrap says that each page is split up into rows. So each page will have a row which takes the entire width of the page, and then each individual row actually has 12 columns in it, 12 specifically. So as you can see here, this is one row because it has 12 columns in it. I counted, there's 12. So basically, what we do when we write code using Bootstrap is that we're going to put elements on the page and say they go in this row, and this is how many columns they take up on this size screen, and this is how many columns they take up on another size screen. So for instance, on our homepage, we go back here, we wanted to make it so that each of these posts are actually little blocks that go side by side. So let's say that I want it to actually put 3 posts per row. So how that would look is that I'd want one post to actually take up 4 columns like this. So take up 4 columns, and then another post would also take up 4 columns. But that's on a large screen like a desktop. Let's say that on a smaller screen like the one down here, which would be mobile, I want it to be only one post per row. Because if you notice, if we did 4 columns per post down here, each post would be really small and scrunched up. So instead, we're going to make it so that in a small screen, each post takes up all 12 rows. And then the next post, if it takes up 12 rows, because there's no space on this row anymore, it'll go to the next row, and it'll achieve the desired effect. So that's the basic idea. There's rows on the page, and then each row has 12 columns. And through that, we have a really good ability to make mobile responsive pages. So let's see how to actually do this. So if we go to Bootstrap's page, as you can see, they have these various classes which we put onto divs to make them a row, or to make this one becomes a column. MD means medium, so on a medium-sized screen, it'll be 1 column. Here, it's column medium 8, so on a medium-sized screen, it would be 8 columns. So there's a bunch of different sizes, so we'll talk about that. But first, let's set up our page with the rows. So all of these posts are going to go into one row. So I'm going to create a new div, and I'm going to say class equals row. And then inside of here, I'm going to put all of our posts. Tab that over. Okay, cool. So now they're in this row. So let's see what happens when I change it to like that. Okay, so far it looks like it got a little bit uglier, but that's okay. Once we add things into columns, it'll be better. So now each post should take up 4 columns like we planned. So we actually don't want to put the class into here. So we could actually give multiple classes to the same thing. So this could be a post, and it could be column medium 4. However, when you make something have a certain number of columns, you want to put that into its own div. So I'm going to make another div. I'm going to say column medium 4, and then put the entire post in there. So let's just do that for the rest of them. And finally, okay, cool. So now each of these posts is contained within a 4-column space thing on a medium-sized screen, and all of those columns are within this row. So let's see what happens. So nothing happened so far, so that's a bit concerning. Let's actually go up, open our inspector, Right, so the reason that this is happening is because I'm zoomed in a lot. So if I zoom out, okay, awesome. So see how each of these posts takes up 4 columns, and it puts 3 of them in a specific row. If I added another post, so let's say I just copy over this post, the Facebook one, it's now 4 columns, but this row now has 16 columns in total. So it puts the next one on the next row, so on and so forth. Okay, so this is really close to what we want. Now let's say that we want to make it have different column sizes on different size screens. So there's a few other things we can do. So we have column medium for, there's also column small. On a small screen, that's like tablet. So let's make it take up 6 columns on a small screen, which will make it take up half. So there would be 2 posts per row. And on an extra small screen, let's make it take up 12. So now I'll give each of these to each of the posts. So now, as I resize the screen, notice that now we got to the small size, and so it actually is taking 2 posts per row. And if we keep going, then now we're extra small, like mobile, and it'll take up 1 post per row. Okay, so this is just the basics of how Bootstrap manages mobile responsiveness using the columns and row grid system. It's really useful, and it's something which you'll be using a lot, not just if you're using Bootstrap, but if you're using other frameworks like Materialize or other CSS frameworks. And it'll provide a lot of useful mobile responsiveness. So in the next video, we're going to talk about how to add components to our page using Bootstrap, which allows us to have a lot of out-of-the-box functionality.